So Life on Life mentoring is not necessarily just mentoring. That's why there's that title. It's really, this is my life, and I'm going to invite you into it, to your mentee. All aspects of it. The more aspects I can invite them into my life, the better. What does it look like for, and everyone's in different life stages, right? You guys are in college age. That's when I met him. He was 9. He got to see, through that relationship, he got to witness, what does that look like? Being single, dating, engagement, marriage. Then he moved in right before baby number 1 was born, which was intense. But then he got to see, okay, what does first baby look like? Second baby, foster baby. Like, he was able to see that, where maybe he wouldn't have seen that in his home where he grew up. So it's more, we're walking life together. We're walking life. It's not, I'm just going to meet you once a month at a coffee shop. When you think about the people who've been most influential in your life, have probably been the people you spent the most time with, or the people you should have been spending the most time with, and there was a lack of it. So mainly parents. Parents are the biggest influencer in our lives. Positive, negative. Whether they're there, they're not there. We all have parent wounds, father wounds, mother wounds in different ways. I'm going to do it to my children, and the hope is that we can teach them the gospel through that and do the best that we can. But yes. So that's life on life, getting that mindset. So we're going to be going off of last week's foundations training and those 8 principles and looking at it as practically. Okay, practically, putting it on a practical lens, looking through it. Can anyone tell me all 8 off the top of their head?
The 8 what?
The 8 principles of Jesus and discipleship. It's all right. I don't even know if I can do it right now. Yeah, we're going to get through them. So I'm going to pray real quick again, and then we're going to dive in. Holy Spirit, I just pray that you fill us up, that you meet us right now. God, we are desperate for you, and without you, Lord, we can do nothing. In Jesus' name, amen. So I'm going to just read real quick, because I'll be referring back to this a lot. Matthew 28, the Great Commission, verses 16 through 20. Then the 11 disciples left for Galilee, going to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some of them doubted. Jesus came and told his disciples, I have been given all authority in heaven and earth. Therefore go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I've given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the ends of the earth. I just read that because I will be referencing back to that. So first thing we're going to hit is just areas of holistic discipleship, and these are kind of the things that will, all of life, life is so complex in ways, but we're trying to shrink it down. These are kind of the areas of life that we're really going to be targeting when we're thinking about our relationship with our mentee. So the first one is recreation. So recreation is, are you having fun together? Right? Like, are you enjoying your time? Are you playing? Playing is such a huge thing that as humans we need. As grown people, we need play. Have you ever met someone who doesn't play at all? They're miserable. God instilled in us to play. So that's crucial to play with your mentee. That could be a sport. That could be a board game. That could be whatever they enjoy doing. Right? Jsaw, they love skateboarding. That's all that is playing. They're hanging out playing. We probably won't take kids water tubing because I don't got a boat, but maybe we'll hook up with that. Whatever the case is, play is huge. And then there's all this research in play and child development. Teachers might know, I don't know, but I know it's important. Second one, family, getting involved, and this goes 2 ways. Family, getting involved in their family, knowing their family, understanding their family. At the same way, are they coming into your family, understanding your family, things like that. If you're married and they've never met your spouse, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And down the road, I would love to have almost just a married mentoring session where couples are coming together and we're going to get training together as a couple, because the reality is it's a ministry that we're both doing if you're married. But single, bringing them into your family, meeting them, well, if it's a good idea, meeting your crazy parents, whatever. The next one is there's spiritual life. Inviting them into your spiritual life, but then also diving into theirs. Who knows? We can't automatically think, oh, these kids don't know Jesus. Maybe they do. Or maybe they believe something else. But that's an area of life that we're going to be really focused on. But if you're a person and all you're doing is talking about Jesus to them, in the sense of just bashing them over the head and you're never playing with them and you don't care about their family, that's a problem. We're looking at a holistic person. Or if you're only playing, right, the recreation, if that's all you're doing and you're buddy-buddy, that's a problem. The next one is academic. We care about their academics. That's important. That's not the only thing we care about, but that's an area of importance. Next one is life skills. Life skills could be anything from, I've taken kids to take their driving tests. I've taught kids how to parallel park. Sometimes they don't have parents who even have a car. Well, how are they supposed to learn how to drive? So life skills could mean anything. If your mentee is, 10, those life skills might look a little different than if you're working with an 18-year-old or your mentee's grown to be 18. But life skills, just thinking through, that's an area that we really want to focus on in our relationships. And then the final one is social and service. And that's really just kind of social life, inviting them into your social life. That is a huge opportunity to minister. For my mentees, I want them to see what does it look like for a group of grown men, Christian men, to hang out. A lot of the grown men that they know who hang out do not do what we do. They're doing a whole lot of mess. And so that's huge, that's important. And then also serving together. Man, how can we just go serve someone? I had a friend who was moving. Hey, mentee, you want to come help me a friend move? I'll get you lunch. Okay, I'll do that. So literally, man, you're not getting paid, you're not doing anything. We're just serving someone else. You're not even serving like me. You're serving someone else in that. So those are just the areas. So when we're getting together in those mentor groups, we're going to be talking about, man, where have you been spending your time? Okay, 1 week it might be just pure recreation. Another week it might be taking them to a Corvette store to sit in it and then talk about spiritual aspects about that. Whatever it may be, you're not going to hit all 6 every time you meet with your mentee. But Lord willing, after years, you've holistically loved and discipled them in all those areas, not just one of them. So these are when we're going to be looking at the practical, looking at those 8 principles through a practical lens. So selection, right? Number 1, selection. So typically, right, we said that Jesus' method was people, not programs or buildings. It was all about people and building people up. I was reading through this, and actually someone else pointed it out to me. But in Luke 6, I'm going to read it to you real quick. Jesus never does this, at least it's not recorded in the Bible, only at this specific time. So it says, one day soon after Jesus went up to the mountain to pray, and he prayed to God all night. At daybreak, he called together all of his disciples and chose 12 of them to be apostles. Here are their names. Listen to their names. So the thing I want to point out is Jesus went, before he selected his disciples, he went away all night and prayed. And that's significant. There's no other place recorded, I'm not saying Jesus never did it, but recorded where it said that he prayed all night, except when he's about to select his disciples. So practically, some of you are already connected to your mentees, some of you aren't. But we need to be prayerful in that. That's super practical. Are we praying, Lord? If we don't have a mentee, are we praying, Lord, would you just connect me with the person that you want me to connect with? Do you have, who would you have me to disciple? And start praying for that. You'll still have to go to them, right? Go make disciples. You'll still have to go, but just being prayerful. I heard this like phenomenal quote, but it was basically just talking about how we're not effective in the harvest if we don't pray for the harvest. And so if we don't first pray for the harvest. And so just being prayerful and mindful. So in our selection, that's super, super important. So practically, what other ways for the selection part? Some of you are connected, some of you aren't. Practically, if you're not connected to a kid, the way that it would work or how we go about it, it's all on an individual basis that we'd be connecting you with, but it kind of the stages. Actually, I'll stay there. We'll get there. All right, number 2, association, right? Jesus was with them. So practically, what does that even mean? Jesus was with them. It means he's with them. You can't have a relationship if you don't know them. You can't have a relationship if you're not together. Long distance relationships are hard for a reason, because you're not with that person. I don't know anyone who's like, yeah, I'd prefer a long distance, well, a healthy person who would say, I prefer a long distance relationship. Yeah, that sounds great. Sign me up. Man, we want to be together. We desire that. And the reality, man, like as part of that association, Jesus was with them. As humans, what we really desire is to be known and to be loved together. If people know us and they don't love us, we all fear that. That's why we don't just throw our sin around to everyone, things we're embarrassed about, right? But if we're loved, but people don't know us, that's superficial, right? How are you loving me? You don't even know me. So we desire to be known and loved. And being known is terrifying at times, right? But that's what we desire, and that's what we have ultimately in Christ. He knows us more than we even know ourselves. But that can only happen if we're with them. So being with them. A big thing is just being consistent. And that's why our goal is to meet with our mentees at least once a week. That's not always going to happen. There's weeks where it's like, man, it's been 2 weeks. Like, that's the goal. But if it turns into, man, I'm only seeing my mentee, once a month, and it's a pattern, that's a problem. That's why we have accountability. That's why I had you sign up and say, hey, I'm committed to seeking to spend time once a week, because that's so important, being with them. So the consistency is huge. And then when you just think about fruits of the Spirit too, right? Faithfulness is one of them. So are we faithful to our mentee? Are we faithful to spend time with them? Super practical. Super practical. Part of being with them is being present. So super easy tip would be like, which I'm guilty of at times, but don't be like on your phone all the time when you're with your mentee. You only have this time together. Cherish it. Give them your undivided attention. Obviously sometimes like, yo, I need to take a text or whatever, but just being aware of, man, am I present in my mentee's presence? Am I even here right now? Another thing is, so consistency is huge, being present. Another practical of when you're together is listening, understanding them. And your mentee will going to get to boundaries. Your mentee's going to push your limits, put you in situations or just frustrations or times where you're like, man, I think I'm done. I'm done with this. This is too much. But the reality is, the more we understand them, the more grace we can have with them. So for instance, one of my mentees, man, just years ago when he was younger, he was really negative. I was like, man, why is this kid so negative? Like all the time. He'll make fun of you for anything. He won't know you, and he'll make fun of you. Look at those shoes, da 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 da, right? Like, look at that hat, look at that beard. Your beard is red. What is red? What do you? Just no matter what it was, just make fun of you. And I was always just struggling, like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm just saying, dude, just stop, like stop making like. And I was getting frustrated. Well, then I started spending time in his house. Okay, so I cut hair. So I just cut I'd cut hair and I'd go over there, cut his hair, and I'm sitting there and I'm realizing like, dang, like, I get it. I've only been here 20 minutes, I get it. In his family, that's how they spoke to one another. Everybody just ripped on each other. And that's how they loved each other. That's, in their mind, that's what they thought. And so, to me, it was like, oh my gosh, now I understand. So then when we were together and he was negative, I had to understand of why he was doing what he was doing, rather than just saying, you need to stop that. So listening, understanding them, that's part of being present. If you're not present, you're not going to understand. If I'm having a conversation with my wife and I'm not present, I'm not listening, you know? And she'll make fun of me how I'm terrible if I get a text in the middle of a conversation, and if I start texting, I'm like gone. She's like, you didn't hear anything I said. It's like, I know, I'm sorry. So being present. So yes. Any questions, thoughts? In the sense of, another thing is just asking questions. That goes into understanding. Asking questions. Asking them their thoughts, their desires. What do they want? What do they see is important in life? It might be different than what you see. And we'll get into more of that next week in culture competency, especially if we're coming from different cultures. Understanding, okay, even culturally, what's important. Every culture, there's different importance. For where I come from, in the sense of middle class white America, we love comfort culturally. We love comfort. That is such a thing, and like being safe, right? Like, oh, I feel safe. Like, why do you think we have such a huge military? Like, in the sense of like, I want to feel safe. When really, like, we're not safe at all. As we've seen the tragedies in our world, like, as much as I want to feel safe, I want an alarm system. You know, I want a pit bull. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. The only time you see white people with pit bulls, like in the city, like they want to feel safe. And that's pointed at me. But that's just something of like, okay, well, maybe in this culture that my mentee is a part of, maybe it's different. Maybe that's different. Maybe they don't put their hope in false safety. But the thing is, the reality is, we have to seek to understand and not think, man, we got it all together, because we don't. But really just spending time together, right? Okay. Go into number 3. Sorry. Number 3. Actually, let's stop. Any real questions on just being with them? That's pretty straightforward.
How do you protect yourself, legally?
Yep, we're coming back to that.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll come back to that.
Safety.
Yeah.
All sense of safety.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So number 3, any other questions or no? Number 3, consecration, right? Jesus required them to obey, right? Now this is the God of the universe. I don't think we take the stance of, all right, you need to obey me. I'm your mentor. Obey me. Like, no, you're terrible. Through our love, through our relationship, we can teach them to obey Jesus, not obey us. And that goes back, we'll talk about next week, of understanding our own cultural lens. And there's things all of us coming from have a cultural lens, in the sense of we're not trying to conform anyone to us. We're trying to show them Jesus and allow the Spirit to work in them to be conformed to Jesus. So we can keep, so just understanding that. We'll go deeper into that next week. But the goal is that they would obey Jesus, not us. And so our call is to love them well, to the point where the Lord starts working on their heart, and they start saying, man, I'm actually starting to feel guilty about the music I listen to. You know? I had that experience, man. I was listening to DMX, Eminem, just like, I don't know if those were my people. DMX was my favorite rapper. I came to Jesus like, bro, I have to literally get rid of this music. Like, that was my own conviction. For me, now, I'm not going to say that in the sense of every believer needs to do what I did. That was my own conviction. But, Lord willing, your mentee gets to the point of, like, I'm starting to feel guilty about this. You know, and us pointing them to obey Jesus in that. So, yes, consecration to obey Jesus. Deuteronomy 6, I'm going to read real quick. And that's really just talking about, in this process, it doesn't necessarily, yes, we should have Bible studies. Like, that would be good to dig into the Word, absolutely. But our teaching them to obey Jesus happens all the time. There's not a time where you sit down and say, now I'm going to teach you how to obey Jesus. That's 24/7 in your relationship. So Deuteronomy 6, listen, O Israel. The Lord is our God, the Lord alone, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, with all your strength, right? Last week we talked about that diagram of holistic faith. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I'm giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Repeat them again and again to your mentee. Talk about them when you are at home. Talk about them when you are on the road, when you're going to bed, when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Whatever you're doing, he just covered it all. Whatever you're doing is when that's classes in session. So we're teaching them to obey Jesus whenever we're together. And we're going to dive really deep into that of how do we do that well. That's gospel fluency, final session. But you're doing it when you're running errands. Hey, I'm running to Target. You want to come? I'm spending time together. Now we're going to Target, right? My man works at Target. We're going to go get some deli from my man. And in that, right? Oh, someone just cut you off. Dude, why didn't you honk at them? Why didn't you flick them off? Why didn't you cuss at them, right? Opportunity. My mentee's throwing me an easy softball in order to teach them how to obey Jesus. Well, dude, the reason why is because I'm turning my cheek. I'm forgiving them. Jesus forgave me a whole lot more over just cutting me off while I'm driving Target. Boom, opportunity. You're teaching them, and that's more gospel fluency. We dive really deep into that week. But house project, right? We're hitting a life skill, teaching them how to mentee over, helping me build a fence, and in that, right? Something just came up, and I just addressed it and talked to him about it, and it ended up leading into a conversation of, Eric, why would you even think that way? Throw me a softball. Well, I think this way because Jesus has impacted my life, and I seek to obey him, not only because it's honoring to God, but because it's good for me. And I'm teaching them that Jesus is good, right? That's, so anything, doing your recreation. For me, I love playing basketball, flag football. I'm teaching Jesus to people while I'm playing. Eric, man, that dude just fouled you and you're going to fight him? That dude just elbowed you in the mouth and your mouth is bleeding, you're not going to fight him? Like, no matter where you're going. Anything you're doing, going to a movie. Most recently, I invited my mentee, one of them, to go see a movie. Bought his ticket. He's like, yo, I'll pay for you. I'm cool paying for your ticket. Going back to the money thing, talk about it. And then it's like, yo, I'm on my way to pick you up. And he's like, oh, I can't come. Something came up. I'm like, dude, I spent money on this. You're coming, bro. No, seriously, I can't. I was like, all right, that's fine. I was cool paying for it. But you're going to have to pay me back. He's like, what? I don't have the money. I'm like, man, you're going to have to pay me back. That's messed up. You can't be doing that, right? And then, as he's feeling this pressure of this debt, I mean, it would have been okay to have him say, dude, no, you really need to pay me back, right? That's a life lesson or part of life that we need to teach as well. But like, I just got to the point where I was like, you know what, man? I'll just let it go. And I'm not just letting it go just for the sake of letting go. It's because I want you to know that you have a far greater debt, and I had a far greater debt with Jesus to be paid, and he took that price. He took it, right? Boom. Teaching obedience, whatnot. I also took that same mentee to the DMV. He'll never go back to the DMV again. All right, number 4. Any questions on that? Teaching obedience, right? All these go hand in hand. You can't teach obedience unless you're with them. You can't be with them unless you have a mentee. You select them. He gave himself away. So as a mentor doing Life on Life, you will very quickly taste the sweet challenges of giving yourself away, right? That's painful. It's hard. It hurts. But the reality is there's a cost to discipleship. There's a cost to someone. Someone has to pay for discipleship. And what I mean by that is when you think about Jesus and the way that he discipled his disciples, he was constantly laying himself down. Things that he maybe would rather do in the sense of worldly thinking, it was costly. Frustration. Let's just think of some things it costs. And it's going to cost the mentor, not the mentee. It's cost of the mentor. Let's just think of things, it could be anything that it might just cost a mentor in order to disciple, in order to walk life. Throw them out. I'm going to write them down. What might it cost you?
Time.
Whoo, time, right? I don't have time to mentor. I'm too busy. I have a wife, 2 kids. I can't mentor. I can't do that. I don't got time. What else?
Being efficient.
Being efficient. I can't write that because I can't spell. I like it. Efficient. Sorry. Being efficient. Absolutely. That time, I'm dead serious. That time when I just shared building a fence, that junk went slow. If you ever do something with your mentee, it will be slower. And you won't be productive, right? Me coming from middle class white, I love production. I love doing things on time and getting it done. That's my cultural lens that I grew up in. And that might not happen. And that's with kids in general. That's my own kids, right? My daughter, Millie, how many times I gotta put your shoes on? In me, it's starting to battle up of like this production, this efficiency is terrible. That's children in general. Anything else? What else will it cost you?
Saying no to other good things.
Yeah.
Opportunities or fun things people invite you to. I kind of related to time. Time.
Okay.
Everything.
How would I say no to good things that maybe you want to do?
FOMO.
I'm gonna just say self. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
Right? You're saying no to yourself. Man, I would really love to go, whatever, play basketball, whatever. And my mentee just asked if I would, go to their, whatever, I'm just making this up, football game. Maybe I hate football. I don't want to go watch football. But I'm going to lay that down for them. It's costing me something. What else?
Comfort zone.
Comfort. Oh my goodness. And coming from the culture I grew up, like comfort is so stupidly highly valuable. That we value it so high, it's sinful. Sinful, the comfort that we desire. You don't really hear that preaching on Sunday. Comfort can be sin. Absolutely. Let's put in a situation. This is just things, illustrations I hope, just to paint, to look drastically different. Or I'll use this one, because a lot of you probably will get to this point. Comfort of, man, I know this kid, I've met him through this program or this area, and I need to meet the parent, and we'll get there. The uncomfortable of, the only way I'm going to meet them is if I go to their house and I knock on that door. What do I say? What do I do? This is awkward. Like, who is this guy coming up, rolling up? Like, that's uncomfortable. There's a bazillion things you're going to be uncomfortable all the time. It's so good for us. Other things. You guys running out?
Money.
Money. It will cost you money, right? Maybe it's going to cost you gas, driving, picking up. For me, it cost me money, spent it, didn't come. Come on, dude. Yeah, money, absolutely. Other things?
Pride.
Say again?
Pride.
Pride. Yes, you will be humiliated. Another word, you'll be humbled in this process. The Lord will expose things of your heart that you never knew were there. One might be your love for comfort. You might be like, dude, I don't love comfort. And through this relationship, God might expose stuff in you. It's like, dang, I really love my money because I don't want to spend it. I really love my comfort. He will destroy your pride. Anything else? All right, I'm just going to throw them out there. I'm not going to write them up there. Convenience. Times where things are not convenient, right? Man, ringing my doorbell 15 times. Now, I'm not saying you don't say no, okay? But I'm just saying that's inconvenient. Rejection, right? There's been a time where I went up to this kid and I saw him out in public and he was with a bunch of his friends and, you know, I knew him. I wasn't like super close in the sense of mentoring relationship, but I knew him. I went up and, hey man, what's up? How you doing? I don't know you. It's like, what? Okay. Next time you want a haircut, what's going to happen? Lord willing, I'll show you grace and give you a haircut. But yeah, rejection, patience. It will cost you patience. And again, this is discipleship in any relationship, especially with children or kids or teenagers. Oh my goodness, patience. It'll cost you effort. It's going to cost you heartache. When you love somebody and you see them making terrible choices, or you see maybe how someone else's choices affect them who made a terrible choice, man, that's heartache. We're going to go into the child protection and abuse. The abuse that some of these kids have faced, that we faced in our life, man, when you love someone, it brings heartache. Frustration, emotional energy. It's gonna, right? Time with other people. Maybe my mentoring relationship, I'll have to say, you know what? I'm either gonna spend time with my mentee or I'm gonna spend time with my friend. Maybe you can do it together, but maybe there will be times of, you know what? This is gonna cost me less time with other relationships. It's gonna cost. That's a guarantee. But that's part of, right, impartation, giving ourselves away, laying our life down. And these all seem really negative, right? But I can tell you, 9 years into a mentoring relationship that was very intense, and I felt a lot of these over the time, and I guarantee my mentee felt a lot of these over the time. A lot of the time throughout the years. It was all worth it. It was all worth it. I would never change it. The goods, the bads, the uglies, the pain, the disappointment maybe, all the different ways it cost, it was all worth it. And that's the truth. And in that, as we're going through that all the cost of discipleship with our mentees, in that moment it is hard, but I guarantee you there will be joy. Maybe not in that moment, you might not feel that joy, but when you're looking back, man, Eric, thank you for doing that for me, man. That meant a lot. Maybe I didn't even think it meant anything, right? Maybe, dude, when you said hi to me with my friends and I walked away, like, I know people that that would never even say hi to me in public when they're with their family, and that meant a lot. I know I rejected you. You have no idea what it's going to mean, but I guarantee there will be joy. When you think about Jesus dying on the cross, right? Going to sit with his Father, he had all joy. So now we're just going to take real quick. So that's the practical, but let's just practically look, right, at Jesus, how he gave himself away, right? He gave his time away. So thinking through this mentoring relationship, if you're thinking, the commitment is for 1 year, right? But if you're thinking, and I'm not saying God can't do things in that first year or in 1 year relationships, but if you're thinking that's all I'm going to do, I'm going to do my 1 year, check the box, and I'm done, I'd encourage you to really process your heart, because it's a process. Jesus, the Son of Man, God Almighty, spent 3 years with his disciples, 24/7. Now, we're not spending 24/7 with our mentees. 3 years. Why would we ever think we could do something different than that in our mentees relationships? was discipleship relationship. So he spent time. Comfort, right? Jesus left the comforts of heaven to step into our brokenness. Not only did he leave the comforts of heaven, it cost him that, but it also cost him physical, emotional, all the things we just said, man. Jesus felt that times 1,000. When Jesus needed his disciples the most, they all abandoned him. All of them. Got sold out by one of them. Peter denies him 3 times. No disciple came to help Jesus or even comfort Jesus. You will feel alone at some point in your mentoring discipleship relationship, but just know that you're alone, but Jesus is with you. That will help carry you through those times when you're like, man, I'm done with this relationship. I've showed up 3 times to this kid's house and he's not there. I'm going to show up a 4th. Maybe he's there and maybe you didn't know why he wasn't there those other 3. Maybe it was, my mom took me and made me do this. I wanted to be home so bad, you had no idea. Like, we don't know. But the reality is Jesus is with us. Right? Jesus tried to get away from crowds. Let's go to the other side of the lake and rest. The crowd beats him there. It must have been a small lake, or these people were fast. But inconvenience, like, dang, I showed up to rest and I got people. Man, I'm done with work. I'm tired. I want to go home and rest. I forgot. My mentee, I said I was going to do this. Or you get a call. Hey, this just happened. Right? I've got plenty of calls, man. 11 o'clock at night. I'm ready. I was sleeping. Get a call from a mentee's parent. Hey, this just happened. Right? And they're seeking help. And for me, it's like, okay, in this moment, I'm going to engage and do what I can. And it's like, man, that's inconvenient. I need some sleep. Frustration, right? John 14, when you think about Jesus, he's talking to like his disciples, and Philip, he's like, man, do you guys know me? And Philip's like, yeah, but show us the Father. Jesus like, dude, you don't get it. So many times Jesus was frustrated, like, I and the Father are one. Disheartening, or, right, going back to that. So, uncomfortable, all those things. I'm just going to read this quote from Andy Mineo. He's a rapper in one of his songs. This is so good. It says, if you want to live a comfortable life, make sure you never love nobody, be selfish, and never sacrifice. If you want to live a comfortable life, don't ever love anyone, be selfish, and never sacrifice. All of us got to check our hearts. All of us got to check our hearts in this. So it's giving ourselves away, right? Discipleship costs, and it's going to cost the mentor probably the most in it. But that's part of giving ourselves away, doing what Jesus did. All right, questions, thoughts? Anything real quick? No? Number 5, demonstration. Jesus showed them how to live, right? Going back to he was with them. He showed them how to live. That goes back to those 6 things, recreation. Well, what does it look like to have fun? You're demonstrating. Your class is always in session. Every time you're with your mentee, you're teaching them something. Your social media, what you put on social media, you're teaching them. You're demonstrating. And so just being super aware, and this should be just the Christian living, but super aware of what you're doing, what you're saying, everything 24/7, right? So demonstrating in those 6 areas, demonstrating in the recreation, having fun. How do we just have fun? Demonstrating with your family, their family. How do I engage their family? How do I love their family? I had a mother tell me, my mentee grew up, the one I'm thinking of is a single mom, and she said, she told me, man, like, it broke me, but it was like, Eric, like, your family is probably the most consistent people in our life. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, like what? Like, yes, we're here, but when I just think through that, I'm like, man, I had no idea, but that's engaging the family. Spiritual life, how are we demonstrating that? So going back to that family though, just like, you're not only demonstrating how to follow Jesus through everyday life with your own family, but you're actually showing their family how to do it, right? Your mentee's probably going to have siblings. their parents. How many times have I been like, man, you're married, what? From mentees' parents or aunts or uncles or grandmas. What? You got 2 kids? What? Why would you do that? Why would you throw your life away like that, right? And that's opportunities. They're throwing me softballs to teach them how to obey Jesus, to share the gospel. But a spiritual life, right? We're teaching them that our spiritual life is not just our spiritual activity, right? Spiritual activity is part of our spiritual life. Reading the Bible, fasting, praying, going to church, Bible studies. Those are spiritual activities, but that's not our full spiritual life, right? Spiritual life, we talked about last week, is, am I loving God? Do I have the affections? Do I have the right understanding, the right theology of who God is? And do I have the right hands? Am I loving my neighbor as myself? And that's the holistic spiritual life. So are we teaching them, the spiritual activities are good, but are we also teaching them the spiritual life? And not just, and that's by demonstrating, right? Doing it ourselves. Eric, when you pray, why do you call him Father? Throwing me softballs! Like, opportunities are endless to share the gospel. Eric, I had this man, I'm giving you some of the gospel fluency stuff. I'm going to say that. I'll say that. Academic. Part of it, right, holistically, is we care about the academics. Academic education is not their God. So we need to show that. Like, yo, your education is important. Don't get me wrong. But it's not your way to life. That's Jesus. He was the way, the truth, and the life. But it's super important. So we need to address this. Life skills, right? We're demonstrating through that how to love Jesus. I think you guys get the point. So I just want you to know your life is the classroom. Your classroom is always in session. That's your life. So that really, man, is erasing a lot of borders or things to think of. I met with an organization trying to help me get grants or whatever for mentoring. They help mentoring programs, whatever, right? I meet with them, I kind of share what I'm doing, and they just work with mentoring programs. At the end of the meeting, it didn't look really good. It was like, my impression was, this is too much. This is too much mentoring that's all we do, is help mentoring programs. And what I was saying was like, man, that's too much. That's too much. And I'm saying like, come on, man, help me out, get some grants. But the thing was, our society sets up boundaries, walls, right? And we gotta have healthy boundaries, but understand that just your life is a demonstration of what does it mean to follow Jesus. Number 6, I'm gonna go through these ones really fast because I don't think we'll necessarily be in this position quickly with our mentees. And this could look all different for every relationship. But number 6, right, delegation. Jesus assigned them work. That's something that we can do with our mentees early on in a relationship, is serving together, but not necessarily delegating them to go make disciples, right? If they're not disciples themselves. But Tion's not here. I'm going to use this example. I hope he was going to be here to pump him out. I'm super encouraged by Tion. A friend of mine has been walking with him for a number of years, and other people, right? Like Tion has so many people who love that kid. That kid is amazing. And he's going to mentor. I'm like, dude, this is so awesome. Like, and my hope is he's getting that actually delegated to him. Like, dude, you really need to mentor. You really should. You have so much to offer. But he was someone that I met and that I have known over the years. And a friend of mine has mentored when he was little. And now it's to the point, right? I don't even know how many years it's been. Where now it's actually, okay, now it's time, bro. Here's delegation. We're giving it to you. Let's go. Let's make some disciples. But in delegation, I think we also can just have general service with our mentees. Next one, supervision. Jesus kept an eye on them. So practically, that's like, man, once we get to the point where our disciples actually making disciples, that's constantly checking in with them. And then finally, number 8, reproduction. And that's Jesus expected his disciples to make disciples. We should do the same. And the reality, though, is as we are making disciples, at the end of the day, it's the Lord's job to bring them and convert them. It's not our job to convert people and actually have a heart change. We can't do that. Only Jesus can. So you might be discipling your kid for 9, 10 years, and they still don't know Jesus. It's okay. It's not your job to change hearts. We can't. Right? As a parent, my number one role in my children is to disciple them. Lord willing, they grow up and know Jesus. I pray over them all the time. But they could grow up and not know Jesus. I can't change their heart. But that's not my job. My job is to disciple them. Well, Lord willing, our disciples become disciples of Jesus, and then they would then make disciples. Okay, that's a lot. We're going to just plow through a little more and then take a break. I'm going to what a mentor is not, and I'm going to try to hit these really quick. A mentor is not a savior. We are not saviors. There's savior complexes. We all have them in different ways. Being from middle class white, huge white savior complex, right? Man, we're going to go into this poor neighborhood in the city, and we're gonna go and save them, bring them Christmas gifts. Not saying that that's wrong or we shouldn't do things like that. Maybe we shouldn't do some of those things, but the reality is we're not their savior, and what we're not is their hero. So even in my relationships that, oh man, you've been with this kid for 9 years, he lived with you for 4, oh, you did such great work, da 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 da. It's like, dude, Jesus is the hero. I like the encouragement, but like I'm average Joe. What I did, and what my family did for such and such, dude, we're not the hero. Jesus is. So we have to understand that and think through that. I think the desire to go serve and help someone is good, right? Like in the sense of Jesus left to serve us, to save us. Now, he's the true savior. He's the true hero. So in that desire, that's good to have, but we can't let that good thing turn twisted. And in doing that, in serving, in doing good, we need to be constantly, Jesus is the hero. Jesus is the savior, not us. And we really need to understand that. And that's going back to those 6 things we're going to hit on, like the spiritual, right? The spiritual life. We are not the parent. We are not the parent. I've made mistakes over my life, or over my life, and even in mentor relationships. That's probably ruined them, straight up. And I'm embarrassed because of it. There's this one kid, man, loved him. Single mom, he was getting to the age where she could not control him. Dude was just wilding out. Me, probably part of it was a savior complex or a parent. I thought, man, I need to teach her how to parent. Well, I thought it was a great idea, right? To be like, hey, you should, he loves his clothes. And he's being super disrespectful for you. And maybe it wasn't bad to say it, but I implemented it, which was terrible. You buy him great clothes and he loves it, but he's completely disrespectful to you. Would you ever take the clothes away? Let him wear some jacked up shoes. Let him wear some scrubs. He's going to disrespect you? And I said it obviously very gentle. But then I thought I was a parent. Screwed it all up. And I was like, all right, let's go in this room and take all his clothes. Literally went in there with garbage bags, putting clothes in. What are you doing? Who are you? And obviously I had a relationship, whatnot, but it was like, dude, you're thinking you're the parent and you're not. You're not. You can share, but taking it to the step where you're thinking you're the parent, bro, we gotta kill that because we're not. And I'm just throwing my embarrassing stuff out there so that you, Lord willing, will not do the same. We are not taxi services. You get some calls, hey, can I get a ride here? Okay, yeah. Or you pick up your mentee and the parent's like, hey, can you just give me a ride to this spot? Cool, okay, yeah. Right, hop in. Oh, before we get there, can we stop at this spot? You stop. Oh, give me 5 minutes. Go inside. I don't know. If that's ever happened to you, raise your hand. No? Yeah.
Not by a friend.
No, not by a friend. Dude, get out of here. But taxi service, hey, Eric, I need a ride to this spot. hey, Eric, like literally I've been called, I don't know, a bazillion times over the years from different people, whether it's my mentee or parents or family members. Hey, I need a ride here, can you give it to me? Sometimes I'm like, dude, I can't. I'm sorry, you know? And being able to say no. It's really important to be able to say no, and we're going to get there. We're not a bank, right? That's super easy to say to your mentee. Hey, can I just get like $5? Hey, can we go buy it? And you just say, dude, I'm not a bank. I'm not a bank. Now with parents, I don't know if I'd be that direct and blunt in the same sense of, dude, I'm not a bank. But, Eric, can I borrow this? Eric, I need this. Is it okay if I borrow this? Can I borrow, right? We're going to talk about that in the money, but I just want you to understand you're not a bank. You're not a babysitter. Oh, you're taking him? Can you also take, you know, these 3 other kids? Right? It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, no, I can't. Sorry. They might be mad at you. It's okay. Ultimately, we're here for the kids, and we want to show Jesus to family, but that's not our number one. We're not a therapist or a counselor, right? We should not be thinking that we are going to come in and help professionally all their baggage and garbage, and we're going to fix that, right? That's not what we're doing. We will give counsel, right? We'll give wisdom, guidance, but that's not our job to solve all their problems, okay? We're not Santa Claus. We're going to get into that when it's coming to money. We're not necessarily best buddies in the sense of like the recreation, right? We need to be playing with our mentees, but if that's all we're doing and we're just best buddy, and that's all we are, we're not discipling. We're not making disciples. So we're going to keep one another accountable in that. Yes, we should be playing, but if that's all we're doing, we're not making disciples. We're not holistically discipling them. And we're also not a teacher or a tutor. Yes, we can help with homework. But if that's all we're doing, our job is not to make our mentee turn into a student. Yes, we want to serve them and help them. But if that's our goal, we're not discipling. So we want to keep the main thing the main thing. Those things are important. They're part of it. But that's not our number one. Our number one thing. I had a friend of mine, and he's like, dude, my mentee like doesn't like me. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing together? He's like, man, we just do homework. That's all we do. I'm like, how long have you been doing that? He's like, probably for like 3 months. Every this time, all we do is homework. I'm like, yeah, bro, I wouldn't like you either. You know, like they don't need another teacher. They need a mentor. So I was like, academics is important. You should be checking in. It's okay to do homework, but bro, you need to stop and just go play. Go throw a football around, right? Get a call later. It was a week later. Eric, man, you were right. Man, he does like me. You know, like, yeah. So just understanding that we're not, and I kind of dramatize that a lot, but understanding that these are things we're not. Thoughts, questions. Okay, now we're going to get into heavy stuff, and then I promise we're going to take a break. We're going to the child protection / mentor protection. This is heavy stuff, but it's a reality, and it's far too much of a reality in our world, in our families, in our mentees' families, in our mentees' worlds, but abuse. So there's 4 types of abuse, right? Physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. And there's signs of these. They might be in our mentees, and we just need to be aware of it. And like the reality is, we might have dealt with a lot of these. Next week in the culture competency, we're going to do this thing called an ACE score, ACE test, and part of it is to help us understand, but understand where we're coming from. But then I want to have your mentee do an ACE score, but we'll leave it there. But we're going to learn that the more we've been exposed as we grow to physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, or emotional abuse, the more challenges and difficulties that life has for us, and we all know that. So physical abuse, right? We're just going to break them down real quick. think you guys know what they are, but unexplained injuries, bruises, fractures, burns, injuries that kids can't give an explanation for. Like, dude, you got a bruise across your face. How'd you get that? I ran into a table. What kind of table? Coffee table. Dude, that bruise is the size of like a bat. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. Maybe it did happen, but just understanding that, or untreated medical problems, like, hey man, I got this rash, and you've had that rash for like 2 months. You went to the doctor, man, they give you cream and be gone in a week. Like, that's a form of abuse, and that doesn't necessarily mean we need to, every situation is different, obviously. So we'll get there. Sexual abuse, any type of contact of sexual nature that occurs between a youth and adult, and we're obviously talking about mentees and adults, or between two youth. This includes any activity meant to arouse or gratify the sexual desires of the predator. This is sexual behavior. Signs of it could be, and also our world is so jacked up, and the accessibility of sexual content is so much that maybe not necessarily sexual abuse occurred for some of these, but some of them for sure. Sexual behavior or knowledge that's inappropriate for a child's age. Sexual behavior, pregnancy or sexually transmitted infections or diseases, blood in a child's underwear, statements that he or she's been sexually abused, they straight just told you, troubling walking, sitting, complaints of genital pain, abuse of other children sexually. A lot of times if you've been abused, it's very easy to slip into being an abuser. Lots of cases of that, and I know people who've been abused and have abused, and it's real. Emotional abuse is a mental or emotional injury to a youth that results in a impairment in the youth's growth, development, or psychological functioning. A lot of signs could be like low self-confidence or self-esteem, social withdrawal or loss of interest and enthusiasm, depression, headaches or stomach aches with no medical causes, avoidance of certain situations, or refusing to go to school or ride the bus, or desperately seeking affection. So that's a huge one that you want to be aware of is, man, my mentee is desperately seeking affection like more than normal. And some kids who've been neglected or had emotional abuse, they might really desire that. I've had mentees, the father wasn't in the home. So especially when they're younger, it's like, man, they want to spend time with me 24/7, right? They were neglected. Now, do I report that their father left them? I don't report that. But that's a reality. That's something that we can work through as they grow, as they get older. So number 4 is neglect. Failure to provide for a youth's basic needs, failure to protect a youth from harm. So poor growth, weight gain, poor hygiene, lack of clothing, supplies to meet physical needs, taking food or money without permission, eating a lot in one sitting, or hiding food for later. I've had instances. Me and my wife had a young lady. She went to Hope years ago, but she ended up living with us while she was attending Hope, and we realized, like, man, she keeps taking food in her room and like hiding it. And it's like, why are you hiding food? The kitchen's right there, right? We didn't understand her. But once we got to understand her, it was, man, I didn't have food all the time. So whenever I'm around you, even though you're living here, right? You're living here, you're hiding food for later. Like, yo, the fridge is open to you. But her life growing up, she didn't always have that. But that's just a sign of, man, maybe she was neglected. Or, every time you hang out with your mentee, yo, I'm starving, I'm hungry. Sometimes kids are just hungry. But it could just be a neglect or a sign of neglect of, man, maybe he doesn't get food at home. Okay? We'll talk about reporting in a minute. Poor record of school attendance, lack of appropriate attention for medical, dental, So before we get into how to guidelines for mentors to be safe, aware, when it comes to reporting, we just want you to contact us. Any concerns, right? Our door's open 24/7. The line's open. but we're also going to be meeting, supporting one another along the line. But anytime it's like, man, I am wondering about this, or dude, my kid was abused in this way, I really think some counseling would be great, and I actually know a counselor who will do it for free. Can we do this? Like, whatever it is, just contact us. We want to be a part of it. If you ever feel like you need to report something, that, man, this needs to get reported, contact us, and we'll walk with you through that process. We don't have to go into how we're going to do that all right now. Everyone clear? Cool. So these are kind of guidelines for mentors, especially, I mean, throughout the whole relationship, but new relationships.